try to erase me, minimum wage me, news article page me, calling us crazy. Your foundation is shaky, top heavy and lazy, with a sticker that says I love the 80s. They say they too big to fail. I say the harder they fall.
2 weeks ago, when Liz Wall quit her post as an RT America host live on air, claiming she could not be a part of a network that, quote,
and that is why personally I cannot be part of a network funded by the Russian government that whitewashes the actions of Putin. I'm proud to be an American and believe in disseminating the truth, and that is why, after this newscast, I'm resigning.
She then immediately went on a tour of all 3 mainstream corporate outlets and anyone who would listen, auditioning for a role on a news show where she could whitewash the blowback-inducing homicidal bull in a cultural, religious, and geopolitical china shop of U.S. foreign policy that I like to call Manifest Destiny's Child. But before you jump on the Chris Hayes bandwagon and celebrate Wall's actions as, quote, incredibly badass, take a moment and read the excellent follow-up report from Max Blumenthal and Rania Khalek, which outlines how Wall's attempt at a network-esque type of a moment was coordinated by the neoconservative think tank Foreign Policy Initiative. Blumenthal and Khalek report, quote, behind the coverage of Wall's dramatic protest, a cadre of neoconservatives was celebrating a public relations coup. Desperate to revive the Cold War, head off further cuts to the defense budget, and restore the legitimacy lost in the ruins of Iraq, the tight-knit group of neoconservative writers and stewards had opened up a new PR front through Wall's resignation. And they succeeded with no shortage of help from an ossified media establishment struggling to maintain credibility in an increasingly anarchic online news environment. With isolated skeptics branded as useful idiots for Putin, the scene had been kept clean of neoconservative fingerprints, obscuring their interest in Wall's resignation and the broader push to deepen tensions with Russia. Despite the depth of this report by Blumenthal and Khalek, the piece that lays bare the machinations of, among other things, the very sadistic and apocalyptic flirtations of the military-industrial complex married to a Straussian noble lie wherein the real-life Dr. Strangeloves who launched a global war on terror, correction, global war on brown people in lands that have not declared war on us and pose no threat to us, correction, global war on everything, everywhere, including U.S. citizens, because in the USA, journalism is the new terrorism. This charming Peace Prize winner maintains a kill list and claims more autonomy in using it than a mafia don. Despite all this, most people here in the United States can be split into 2 camps. In the majority camp, you have people who think that the United States' support for Ukraine and saber-rattling with Russia is just another chapter, another example in the storybook tale of the United States as a superpower spreading good, protecting freedom lovers the world over from tyrants and monsters like Putin. And in the minority camp, you have people who think that Ukraine is a 12 seed in the eastern bracket of their March Madness office pool. And an even smaller group among them would be the viewers of this program who recognize that while Putin may not be the hero in this story, that this story is in fact a bit more nuanced than the plot of a fairy tale. However, for those of us able to look at the world without the tint of nationalistic goggles the mainstream corporate media Liz Wall so desperately wants a job working for demands that we wear, one thing is crystal clear. The world still has 2 major nuclear powers, the United States and Russia. For decades now, it's been the United States who has been the aggressor in this relationship. As Diana Johnstone, writing at Counterpunch, puts it, quote, is Russia urging Quebec to secede from Canada so the province can join a military alliance led by Moscow? Evidently not. That would be comparable and yet mild compared to the recent U.S. gambit led by Victoria Nuland aimed at bringing the Ukraine into the Western orbit. Russia professes no hostile ideology and only seeks normal relations with the West. What more can it do? It's up to Americans to come to their senses. Does the United States want war with Russia? It seems the powers that be would prefer complete subservience to war, but judging by our actions, decades in the making, the next front of our perpetual war never seems an if, but a when. I'm Dennis Traynor Jr. This has been the Resistance Report on Acronym TV. What do you stand for?